Good morning, everyone. It is April 6th. This is Victory Loves Company. I am James Lynch. He is Jim West. Jim, how's it going? How are you this morning?
Good. I was almost late because my coffee wasn't quite ready.
I know. I was kind of hoping you were late so I could give you a hard time, but you made it in the clutch, Jim. I got to give you credit.
No. My coffee wasn't quite ready yet. I was like, oh, man, this is cutting it close. So.
There you go. By the way, this morning, Jim, since this is something we've talked about over the last couple of weeks, I finally got my hands on Chael Sonnen's Mean Street Cold Brew Coffee. It's really good. I did a review video on it on my channel, youtube.com/LynchOnSports. I gave it like an 8.6 out of 10. I was impressed.
Super strong. It
is strong, flavorful. Like as far as cold coffee goes, it needs to hit all those targets, and it hit them. I was very, very, very impressed. To give it like a 10, it'd have to like knock me off my socks. It didn't do that, but it was very good. It was very good.
Put hair on your feet. It's so strong.
So anyways, we are fueled by Chael Sonnen's Mean Street Coffee this morning. By the way, Chael, you ever want to sponsor me? I'm more than happy to do that. But Jim, how was your Easter? And we'll talk about our guest here in 1 second, but I got to know how your weekend was.
It was good. I got a lot of naps in.
Yeah.
Went over to my sister's. Family was over there. Hung out most of the day on Sunday. So yeah, it was kind of relaxing.
Is your daughter still at the age where you can still do all the Easter stuff, or is she like beyond that now?
Absolutely.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. Good. Yeah. My son, this was like the first like we did Easter last year with him, but he, he didn't really know like 100% what was going on. But now that he's 3, he was like all into it. So it was a success. Oh, yeah. My wife gets 100% credit for that. She does all the Easter egg hunting and stuff. I'm just the facilitator and all that. So there you go. Yeah. But anyways, don't want to bore our audience with all that family stuff. We got a great guest here today. Mike Guy is going to be joining us here. If you don't know that name, he is the secret weapon at MMA Gold. He's one of your coaches, one of your helping hands, so to speak, in there. Jim, you probably would explain it better than me. Who is Mike Guy? For our audience who might not know.
He's got many different nicknames. I'll let him tell you when he gets on. But yeah, Mike and I have known each other, since probably around 2008, somewhere in there, okay. 2009. Mike's our boxing coach. He's Aspen, and Anthony Hernandez is, head boxing coach. He's one of the best coaches around, in my opinion. I mean, you see a lot of things on the internet nowadays with all these different coaches. They're holding pads and they're holding a 40 punch combination, mitt combination. That shit doesn't ever work. They never throw it in it drives me absolutely insane. So coaches and fighters, stop fucking doing 40 punch combinations on the mitts, because you never throw it in a fight. You've never seen it. It never works. It never will. Stop. But Mike's one of those guys where the basics are the foundation of everything that has to do with these guys and girls that he works with. And he's very adamant about that. He has this saying, or this hashtag no, stop bullshitting. And it's true. Like, he's just he's kind of like me in a lot of ways when it comes to grappling. You gotta hone your skills on the basics, and because that's what wins fights. Mike's one of probably the most comical dudes you'll ever meet. We'll see what we can bring out of him here today. For sure. Yeah. You're hyping him up, Jim. You better deliver. Yeah. Amanda, our producer, if you want to bring Mike Guy in here. Mike, how's it going? Good morning. How are you, sir?
Good morning.
He's probably bullshitting. He's probably bullshitting right now.
Yeah, and this probably the only time I'm bullshitting, because this is way early for me.
I was gonna say, what time do you normally get up? How much did Jim have to twist your arm to get you out of bed this morning?
Oh man, I normally get up about 8:30, lay back down for a little while.
Damn. Okay, we really got you up early. I'm sorry about that, but happy to have you here, man.
Yeah. So, normally I'm really up about 10 o'clock. So I got to get up a few times. So this is like me getting up at like 2 a.m.
Okay. Well, the dedication is appreciated here on the program. Do you go to bed late then, I assume? Is that sort of the reasoning for you getting up a bit late?
I go to bed late because, I leave the gym late, and then I'm like a
night owl.
I'm a night owl. I closet workout, so I might not get done working out between 12 and, 1 a.m. in the morning, just doing little things on my own.
Good for you, man. I'm the exact opposite. Anything past like 8 o'clock at night, I'm like, I can't do any work. I'm useless. Like I need to, I'm an early riser. 5 a.m. no problem. I can get up like, not like it's nothing, but going to bed late, being up late. I'm that guy that's, I'm no fun at parties because I want to leave and go home and go back to bed. So there you go.
You sound like me.
Exactly. I know Jim and I are kind of like, yeah, we're very, very similar in that regard. But yeah, like I said, really happy to have you on here, man. Jim sort of talked about it there. How did you and Jim link up first? Jim told his side of it, but I want the truth because I know Jim exaggerates things.
Yeah, he exaggerates a little bit. We have a mutual friend named Justin Castrillo. I'm not sure if you know him. He was like, man, you got to come over here and check out this team. And at that time, I was just like over people wanting to fight and bullshit. You know, I'll train people, but if they're bullshitting, then I wouldn't want to deal with them. And he said, come check out, you know, this team. And at that time, they're at Folsom MMA. He said, yeah, come work out with, you know, Jim West is over there and a couple other judo instructors. So I said, you know, okay, I'll go check it out. But, you know, I was planning on not staying, you know. Then I actually, the person that got me to stay was Aspen's brother, Trevor, you know. So, and I was just working with him at first. And I told him, hey, I want you to fuck up everybody in the gym just so I could, you know, pretty much get out of there. So I was this, he was like the only person I was working with. Then I met a couple of other fighters, Billy, and then Steven Gruber, and then the event. I probably met Aspen like maybe like 6 down the line, you know. Then I was like, then I kind of was, oh, maybe I'll go ahead and stay around, you know. But that's kind of how I got started. You know, I didn't really want to be there, and then just fell in love with the guys, and here I am.
Fun fact, though, James. Fun fact that Mike's forgetting a little piece of that. Well, a lot of people don't know. Mike's been around the MMA game for a lot longer than people even realize. Like, they think, yeah, he's a boxer, and yeah, you know, he's a pro boxer, one of the best around. But Mike actually started in kind of the MMA stuff back in like the early 2000s with James Irvin and Billy Miles and all those guys.
James Irvin is a name I have not heard in years, by the way.
Like,
wow. I'll always remember him
back.
for having that really bad weight cut in the UFC where he looked like he was on death's door. But anyway,
like way back, like in the early 2000s, right? That Ultimate Training Center was called.
The Sand.
Mike's been around the game for a long time. You know, a lot of these fucking boxing coaches and striking coaches be bullshitting. You know, I mean, me and Mike were laughing at a video yesterday. I won't say who, but it was a very well-known UFC female, and the guy's holding pads. And it's like, bro, like she's not even turning over her lead foot. Like, there's no power in her left hook.
Yeah.
Like, you're not teaching her anything other than just looking cool on a mitt. Like, it's terrible. But yeah, anyway, like.
Are you familiar with So yeah, I was at UTC and James Irvin gym at that time. I think they were kind of merged together with Uriah Faber, but the person I was training there was Scott Smith, Hands of Steel from Strike.
Oh, of course. I have a poster of Scott in my office here with the Robbie Lawler fight for Elite XC.
Yeah, so I lived with him and trained with him for 2 years.
Wow.
So that was real rough. You know, you got to train him, and then, you know, at that time,
deal with him.
He was. I know he's an alcoholic, right? Yeah.
I had to carry him up the stairs and put him in a bed a few times.
Yeah. Is he doing better now? Do you still keep in touch with him?
Oh yeah, he's doing good. He's, you know, married, got a couple little more kids now. His sons, you know, Mikey and Scotty, they're all big, and actually ran into his son, Scotty, on a cruise randomly, you know, like some years back, like 4 or 5 years ago. Is where I was on a cruise and I saw him going, you know, running around, and said what's up to him. But yeah, he's good now. He's turned his life around. He's, you know, he's a house dad now.
Good for him. No, because I know that was something I didn't know until years later, that he had all those issues. And of course he had that losing streak as well, which I'm sure contributed probably from, you know, some of the things he was dealing with outside the cage. But by the way, if people have not heard of Scott Smith, the Robbie Lawler fights are great, but also that fight against Pete Sell, the one at the last second, that was crazy. That was nuts. That's, you probably won't ever. I mean, that's, to replicate that is so difficult to do. Of him, what was he got punched in the stomach and then he knocked him out, right?
Yeah, that's still one of like the top MMA knockouts
that never gets talked about because it's Scott, right? Because Scott's not really a household name, so I'm with you there. So that's kind of neat. Anyway, sorry, I went off on a big Scott Smith memory lane there for a second there, but that's interesting. So you know, your background is obviously, you know, in boxing primarily, like you said, you're the boxing coach or whatever. Getting to work with someone like Aspen, how does she compare to some of the other athletes you worked with? Because that's one of the things we've seen with Aspen is that she's got really exceptional striking.
Well, she makes it, being a coach kind of easy. It's pretty much like playing, if you really know how to play a video game and you know how to work the controller, and whatever you want it to do, it does it. It's not like I'm not going to try this. There's no glitches in the game. Like whatever, she's trusting what you're showing her, and she tries it. She applies it. She learns it. She does it, so it's, you only find a few fighters like that actually what you're showing them, just do it, with no questions asked.
Yeah, like go on autopilot type thing. Like you can tell them something, they're going to actually do it, as opposed to being like, okay, I got to tell you 3 times, 4 times, right? It's like one of those things, she gets it right away, which is good. I mean, that's what you want, but that's also good coaching too, right? If you can articulate what you're trying to say, well enough that the fighter gets it the first time, that's a good coach as well. So
yes,
both sides of the coin. Jim, Mike, you got anything else? Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, Mike, when you first started coaching Aspen, though, when did stop bullshitting come up? I mean, I don't know if it came up with Aspen, but when did that hashtag come up?
Actually, I think the first I started hearing that, because I used to train with one of the coaches that taught me everything was Diego Corrales' dad, Ray Woods. So he said it, and he's like pretty much the foundation of everything that I've learned. He used to say it all, he said it here and there, and then it just stuck with me. And then from that point on, anybody that was doing any kind of bullshit, and I try to put an end to that.
Hey, I think you're bullshit with them Crocs that you wear all the time.
Oh, I got it.
Bullshit.
So I was at Aspen's dad's house the other day, and he got a pair of Crocs. And I would say I got Crocs for every 3 hours. So every 3 hours I was changing them. They were in the car, we had the fire going or whatever. I went out to the car and changed it. It was like, man, he wasn't playing about the Crocs, But I think, you can wear whatever.
James, are you a Crocs guy? Are you a Crocs
So
guy?
I do own a pair of Crocs, and it's only for if I have to go to the backyard. Like I need to get outside quickly. I don't want to slide my shoes on. They're in the back because our backyard's obviously in the back of our house. So rather than keep a pair of shoes at the back, I keep the Crocs. So if I need to go out and do something, it makes sense. But I'll mention this about the Crocs. So I don't have like the Crocs brand of Crocs because they're like expensive. I got like the Walmart version, and they're just as good. Like I've had them for years, no issues. So
they call it clogs. They call it clogs or something.
I don't know what they're called, but they look exactly like Crocs.
See, I'm trying to think. Both of you guys are bullshitting.
People that know Crocs.
What's wrong with Crocs, Jim?
People know that you have fake Crocs. They know it's
well, I don't wear them in public. It's just around the house. I wouldn't wear them in public. That's maybe where Mike and I differ. I won't wear them in public.
Mike be wearing those things everywhere.
He could beat everyone up though. I can't. So there's a difference. So.
Mike be wearing those things, strip clubs. It don't matter where he's at. The fights.
Really? Have you worn them?
The Crocs.
That's crazy.
I haven't worn them to a strip club yet. I would though, but I would.
By the way, is that your custom made T-shirt? I like that. Is that the Mike Guy shirt?
Yeah, this is one of them right here. Mike Guy boxing.
Look at that. There you go. We'll plug that at the end because merch is important. James. I know this very well. I got my Lynch on Sports shirt here today, so there we go. Oh, there we go.
Here's the funny story. Mike has competed in MMA and in boxing.
I'm looking at his Tapology record right here. I saw you competed in boxing as of December this past year.
And so here's a funny story. So Mike will always say, and he probably wasn't, but everyone says the same things when you spar with Mike. Like it feels like a 5-pound sledgehammer, not a real heavy sledgehammer, but how a sledgehammer hits perfectly every time, and it feels like your bones are shaking. It's kind of what it feels like. But in order to get Mike, I was sparring with Aspen many years ago when she was first starting, right? Not sparring with her. And Mike must have been getting annoyed or something like that. I don't know. And I had been busting Mike's balls for a while. I'm like, hey, Mike, you got to get into an MMA fight, do an MMA fight. And he's like, nah, I ain't doing a fucking MMA fight. And and make a long story short, I fucked up and said, okay, well, I'll spar with you. If you do an MMA fight, I'll spar with you for a few rounds. Worst decision of my life. Worst decision. And Aspen loved every second of it. She's sitting on the edge of the mat, just watching me get my ass beat. I'm like, I think I was concussed for 90 days. It was terrible.
Wow.
That's how Mike got into MMA.
She likes watching everybody get beat up. Anytime there's any type of fight going on in the gym, she's like next to the ring, next to the cage, just all, this grin and ear to ear. No matter who it is, she's all in,
matter. That's true.
Taking MMA Gold out of the equation, who are some of your favorite strikers to watch in the UFC right now that's sort of on your list, or someone that you think is a really good striker that sort of catches your eye in terms of, because like I said, you're a boxing guy, so I'm sure you pay attention to that stuff.
That's a really good strike. It's hard because I don't see a whole lot of. I see people that so it's different. They can strike good, but not necessarily box good.
Right.
And nobody really, I don't think they think he's a good boxer, but he's not a good boxer, but I think he strikes good. Is Conor McGregor, just the precision. He knows how to get you in that right position to land the shot. So he's even though he's not really doing anything right now, I think he's a really good striker that's in the UFC right now.
Well, he's got his fight. They rebooked the fight, not rebooked, but they're doing the trilogy fight with him and Poirier. I don't know if you heard, it's going to be July 10th. What do you think of that? Because I don't know. I said this before. Maybe I'm on an island on my own here. I think Conor should have taken a tune-up fight and then fight Poirier after that, because if he loses this, the Conor McGregor business is not good if he's losing, and I think there's a good chance he could beat Poirier again.
I think I agree with you on that.
Yeah.
But he, it's a fight game. Sometimes you don't get those kind of options to get a fight before a fight that will be good for you.
Or he should go do a Rocky style camp, because this is one of the things I talked to Eddie Alvarez about. And granted, I know Eddie lost to Conor, but still, I said, hey Eddie, would you open up your basement in Philly, get Conor to live down there and make a Rocky style training camp? Eddie said he wouldn't train him, but still, that's what I think Conor needs to do, is get out of his element. He's with all these people, I think, around him that are yes people. He needs to get out of that frame of training, because he's got all these people that are just leeching off him, you'd think, because he's a millionaire, right? It's one of those things where I think he needs to get out of his element and go in there and do a Rocky style camp and then go in there and fight Poirier. I feel more confident about that. But if he's keeping things how they are, and yes, I know he won the first round against Poirier in their rematch, I still think he'd be better off just switching things up a bit, because he hasn't looked the same, I think, since the Alvarez fight.
Yeah, I agree. I think so. Yeah, I think it's some kind of down and dirty training, or if he doesn't get that tune-up fight, I think some hard sparring, to where you thought you were in a fight, kind of, you got to recover from those kind of sparring sessions. Mm-hmm. I think that'll help get him more prepared for a tough fight like that.
Jim, what do you think? Do you agree, or do you think they should have do what they're doing, which is give McGregor the Poirier fight right away?
Yeah, I think he's got to get out of his little comfort zone. He's got to put himself back into learning how to be uncomfortable. And I think, like you said, he's part of a group now. It's just a bunch of yes men, and he's telling them how he's going to train versus them telling him how he's going to train. And I think he needs to go back to that kind of mentality, because he still has the physical attributes.
100%. And that's this fight is so crucial, and I'll explain why in a second here. Not that I want to spend the whole show talking about McGregor, but McGregor's always been thought of as one of the best fighters ever. Well, now that he's lost to Poirier and he's lost to Khabib, and he obviously lost to Diaz a few years ago, he's kind of at that point now in his career where it's where is he going to be headed? Is he going to be headed back towards a title shot, or is he going to be headed back to being where Nate Diaz is, where you're losing fights, but you're obviously still popular enough where you're going to get paid well and you can continue to fight? He's at that point now. And this Poirier fight, I really believe, is a crossroads here, because if he beats Poirier, he's back in the saddle towards, earning a title shot and, becoming one of the greatest ever. If he loses, then like I said, he's in Nate Diaz, Jorge Masvidal territory, in my opinion. I know Masvidal's fighting for a title, but you get what I'm saying.
Well, I think it's actually worse than that. I think it's one of those things where there's no in between. If he wins, he's going to fight for the title. He will.
100%.
If he loses, he's going to be almost to the bottom of the line, right? Even though he's got Conor McGregor name, I think he's either all the way at the top, or he's going to be all the way towards the bottom. He'd
still headline a UFC. You know what I'm saying? They can literally
because of his name. He would because of his name, but his stock, as far as what he's going to do and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, I agree.
It goes from here to here, immediately. It's weird. But
no, I know it's he'd be in sort of what Chael Sonnen had to deal with right after he lost to Silva and Jones. It's he's just doing marquee fights, and people will watch, but it's you're not watching one of the greatest ever, right? So it's one of those things there. Yeah, no, that's interesting. Kind of on that note as well, since we're talking about, fights and upcoming fights, we've got that Ben Askren and Jake Paul fight next Saturday. As a boxing guy, what do you think of that? Because, Ben's been working. I'm actually supposed to be talking to Ben later today, by the way, so I'm going to get some insight into his camp. I know he's been working a bit with Freddie Roach. I'm curious to see, how he looks with this little bit of training, but it's such a weird fight because Ben's striking we've seen is not great at all. He is an athlete, and he's fighting a guy in Jake Paul who, look, he's looked great, but he beat up an NBA player. Like, what can we really gauge from that? So I don't know. What's your thoughts on this whole thing? I'm curious.
Yeah, I don't really respect the YouTube guy trying to do any type of, fight sports, but lately I have seen a little bit of his training. He is getting a little bit better, but what he doesn't have is that experience. Even though he's fighting the MMA guy, doesn't have that, much boxing technique. And you say, I didn't know he was working with Freddie Roach.
Yeah, he is.
So I'm pretty sure Freddie's going to make sure he has the basic fundamentals, as far as how to stance, basic punching, but he has a lot of fight experience. So it might not be the cleanest fight, but Jake Paul, he's never fought nobody that's actually really tough.
Right.
That's going to stay there. And, he's not just going to, slap punches at him and, and going to win. So even if he is landing shots, I don't see Jake Paul winning this fight.
But that's the interesting thing, because with boxing, right, like Paul has power. I mean, we saw him knock out Nate Robertson, but granted, it's Nate Robertson, right? And it's not even like Robertson's like an active NBA player. He's a retired NBA player with no combat sports experience. And it's almost the perfect storm because and I really don't know who's going to win. Like, you've got Askren, whose striking's not great. He's always relied on his wrestling. He did take a Robbie Lawler punch, though. Let's be honest here. Jake Paul's not hitting like Robbie Lawler, right? The Masvidal knockout. Yeah, and people want to look at the Masvidal knockout. It's like Ben did the worst thing you could do. Masvidal did the perfect thing you could do. Askren shot for a takedown. Masvidal's throwing a knee. Like, it was one of those picture perfect things. They fight 9 times out of 10. I think Askren probably beats Masvidal with his wrestling. But that's one of those things where it's like people look at those two instances, and then you look at the Maia fight where he was submitted and his boxing was terrible. People are writing Askren off, and you see Paul, who knocked out an NBA player. They're not looking at the optics of it, which is he beat an NBA player. You know what I mean? So it's interesting. That's where Paul does have power, but is that power enough to knock out a Ben Askren at his age? We'll see.
When you knock out, we call those, when you knock out a person that don't fight, we call that a taxi cab driver, tomato can,
Walmart greeter.
The gladiator challenge of the world.
Yeah, you get no points for knocking out an NBA player. Like, even on the streets, guys that think that they're tough, they call them you're a basketball thug. You know what I mean? And when you call it a basketball thug, nobody looks at a basketball guy and put him in a tough category. Nobody looks at them, even though they're giant men, nobody looks at them as a threat when it comes to some fighting, mutual combat. Nobody. So knocking out that guy, for me, that didn't show me anything.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because a lot of people do feel that way. Oh, have you seen Jake's power? It's like, yeah, but look who he knocked out. No one's looking at that. Anyways, Jim, I feel like I interrupted you, so if you want to chime in.
I was just laughing. It's like the gladiator challenges of the world. Have you ever been to
the
a
worst promotion is
show?
Alaska. Have you guys seen Alaska FC? This promotion, they used to be on Fight Pass. 90% of the fighters that come out of there have fought. They have all good records, but they fight literally fighters with losing records. It's like
James,
the same thing
over and over. We're going to one up Alaska FC with Gladiator Challenge. This fucking promotion, James, we've seen guys fight 2 or 3 times in one night. They get knocked out twice. They get knocked out.
Okay, that's really bad.
They go in the back, they recover, and then they fight again and get knocked out again. It's crazy. It's great, insane.
No, you're missing something. Not only do they get knocked out, they got to break down the ring later on.
They're fixing cage in between the fights, and then they
I've been to the fight again. They've called people out of the audience to fight. How many beers you have? Only one. Okay, you can fight next.
Yeah.
I mean,
Dude, it is.
But is that something recent? Because I remember, back in the day, Gladiator Challenge actually put on some decent fights. I remember there's that outdoor fight between Tyson Griffin and Uriah Faber.
There's always 1 or 2 on there that are legit. But then everyone, and they'll stack one side of the card, right? So like one side of the card is like good teams, right? There's gonna be good athletes, and then the other side of the card is like Mike said, dudes wearing basketball shorts and shit that have to fight 2 or 3 times a night. They're fixing the cage in between fights. Like, dude, Gladiator Challenge is unbelievable.
Some of the guys still got their shoes on.
Like, crazy.
Some of the guys still got their shoes on. Like, no, you don't need your shoes. Like, why?
I remember seeing some of that. When I used to work at Fight Network, we had the rights to Gladiator Challenge, like to air it. And one of my jobs was to go find like old fighters that were like notable that fought in Gladiator Challenge and take the fights up. But I do remember a few with the guys wearing the shoes and all types of weird stuff that was happening there. But I didn't know it was that bad about pulling people out of the crowd. That's crazy.
Dude, James, we've seen guys get knocked out more than one time in a night.
Yeah, that's
like, it's insane. Insane. Yeah, that's crazy.
Switching gears, I heard you met Mike Tyson at a strip club. Tell me about this.
So we had
not you, Jim. Obviously,
no, I never go.
You're in bed by 9 o'clock.
I never go. Mike's always crazy. You gotta have Mike tell you after this, or you gotta have Mike tell you about the Kansas City trip. It was him and Fluffy.
Oh yeah, no, we got part of it with Fluffy, but yeah, I want to hear the other side of it.
Dude, it's insane.
Okay, but let's hear this Mike Tyson story first.
Well, the Mike Tyson story was I think Aspen fought the night. We're in Vegas. And I was with all the doctors from Kaiser. You know, they came out to watch Aspen fight, and I was like, all right, let's go to the strip club. So I was like, all right, I'll go with you. I took somebody with me. I couldn't remember.
What fight was it?
In Vegas.
Was it UFC? Was it
UFC?
Was it Tanya Evinger, the UFC when McGregor Khabib?
I think it might have been that fight.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I thought I took another one of the fighters with me because I remember them being in the room. I don't know if it.
It's like Hangover every time we go to fights.
So,
with Mike.
Long story short, me and all these doctors from Kaiser, all guys from Kaiser, whatever. So we go over to the strip club, and then, you know, they all got money. So we have like the biggest booth, and then, you know, all the bottles and all the whistles or whatever, you know. Like me, I go to strip clubs, but I really don't like strip clubs. I like to go so other people can have a good time, or to make somebody else, you know, night a little bit better, just kind of orchestrate stuff, you know. So I'm walking around the club, you know, and just mingling, and, you know, and the girls, they can tell he don't want no lap dances, but they'll come over and hang out, and I gotta go make some money, I'll be right back, whatever. So we got the big booth. I see Mike Tyson walk in, you know, he got his stack of money, he got his couple goons with him or whatever. And I can see he's saying something to the people that work there.
By the way, you were with Billy. That's Amanda's letting us know. You were with Billy that night.
Oh, that's what
it was. It was McGregor Khabib. It was when Aspen fought Tanya.
Okay, so yeah, I was with Billy. So I think he was over there telling him, "Hey, that's my spot. You know, I'm supposed to be there. You know, and they pretty much told him, not, you know, you're not going to get it or whatever, something like that. And they put him to the booth directly next to us, and his back is sitting towards, and he's looking like the back of a Honda because he's like out of shape, but he's still big. If you get hit by him, you're probably gonna get nailed into the ground. So I get on Facebook, I kind of take a little, video or picture or something to behind them. And I'm like, I might have to fight Mike Tyson for the booth tonight. I ain't scared of nobody. I'm gonna try to give him what I got, and then we'll figure it out after that. So just to show him, I wasn't intimidated by him or his people. I get up and I kind of walk right through the middle of them. And that was went over there, talked to one of the girls, and then came back, just to kind of like scope out the scene. He was and it was kind of weird because he's Mike Tyson, and all the cute girls in the club were hanging out in our booth and walking over there and mingling with us, and he had the worst girl in the club. I don't even know. I don't even know if she even worked there. He had, this beat up girl. I guess she worked there, and she hung out or whatever. Then I think once his money ran out, then he ended up leaving. So that was kind of like the Mike Tyson story.
Interesting. Well, you know what? Okay, a couple things there. First off, maybe he's with the like not so good looking girl because he's probably had, all types of women. So now at that point, the good looking girls, they're boring to him. Maybe he needs someone, a little bit less. I don't know. That would be my guess. It's like, some variety there.
Maybe she had a really good personality. She's
exactly. That's really what it's.
Yeah,
I'm surprised. So you took a photo in the strip club. I heard like if you do that, you get kicked out, right? Because that's the whole.
Nah, but the way we were moving around, we kind of moved around like we owned the place. Like it was.
Oh, okay. Oh, gotcha. Okay. Yeah.
Like it was. They were like, I don't know. We had a little bit more juice and clout than him. Like they wasn't really worried about him. They was like, oh, this is the fun group over here.
Mike. What about Shaler's extravaganza at the strip club after Fluffy?
Oh, I saw the video of that with him throwing up.
Oh, you saw the video?
Yeah.
So Shaler, I told him one day I'd take him to the strip club. So we're in Vegas again, and Fluffy he just won his fight. So we linked up, So the UFC said, "Hey, if you guys leave, then you can't come back." So I'm trying to figure out what we're gonna do. So I'm gonna get us an Uber. I said, "Amanda, see if you can get us a hotel somewhere else. Because once we leave, we can't come back. We can't use their cars, shuttles, or nothing like that." So I was like, "Forget it." So we got another hotel. Met up with Fluffy. Then we went to like a couple of different strip clubs. Then some of them were closed, some of them weren't letting people in, some of them wanted to like fucking a down payment. You had to do financing, you had to do all kind of stuff to get in. Yeah. So we found this one spot, and I said, well, one of our one person out of our group doesn't have an ID. I think they lost it. I didn't say who yet. I was just trying to fill them out. Somebody don't have the ID. They're on their way back. Then he said, okay, we can work around that, so he was like, which one is it? Then Taylor came around. I think he don't got his ID. He's like, he was like, is he 21? I said, I was mumbling and shit. Was kind of, I said, no, I don't think he's 21 yet or whatever. He said, well, just to get him in, you got to get a booth, and the booth started, $9.50. I give you a deal and give you 2 bottles. So just to get in, that was $9.50.
Jeez.
So we get in there, we got the booth. So I'm like, okay. Everybody sat down in the booth. I go to the bathroom, and then I come back out, and I'm like, "Where's Shaler at?" And it was like, I think he went that way. So I walked to go look for him. This stripper comes up to me, and they was like, "Hey, you're the one that's taking care of Shaler tonight, right?" I said, "Yeah, I got him." Okay, we're gonna give him the deal. It's normally $1,400, but we're gonna give him the package for $900. Yeah, I'm like, hold on. He's not signing up for that. And they was like, well, he only got 5 minutes left, and that'll just be the $300. I said, well, y'all got to stop at that because he ain't getting no more of that. So he finished up his 5 minutes. I walked them back out to like the open area, but they took him on the other side of the room. So I could see him from there, So now I'm like, I'm going to go grab a drink. So I go to grab a drink. Then I come back, and I think Fluffy's wife was like, hey, they got a different girl on him. I was like, oh, shit, let me go over here. So I go over there. I say, hey, man, you got to come over here. And I sat him a little chair right in front of the booth. And I said, you can stay here, or you can go right here to the tip rail. I went and got ones and stuff. So anybody you want, you can have them. So he's sitting in the chair right there. I'm making it rain over there, and then he goes to the tip rail. We start throwing cash. Fluffy gave him some cash. He's throwing cash. I put his face in this girl's butt. Yeah, I was like, I wasn't thinking about the corona, So I was like, yeah, you probably
there's no corona in the butt.
You probably gonna have to sanitize your face now. After that. So then he comes back to the thing that he's hanging out with this one girl. So this is probably like the video or picture you saw him sitting in the chair with the one girl, So
there was no girl. It was just him throwing up. That was the video I saw. But anyways, yeah, go ahead.
So I'm just, mingling, talking to folks. We're taking like some videos, whatever. Once again, I got the phone out, I'm taking videos and pictures of everything, you know. So then the girl, I turn around, she's pouring alcohol down his mouth, and I go over there, hey, what are you doing? You know, and he's just drinking it like a fish, like he don't know what's going, and he's drinking it like
it's water.
100-degree weather. This so you need water.
I've been there before.
Yeah. So he's drinking it like that much, and I was like, hell no, get that bottle out of his face, out of his mouth. I said, Greek, give me that damn bottle. Here, hold the bottle. And I told her, tilt your damn head back. So I made him pour it in her mouth. So then he's pouring it in her mouth. But it didn't look like it was phasing her at all. She was drinking it like it was, you know, Slendy Delight or something. So a little bit of time go by. He over there wobbling. He's actually sitting in the booth now. He's wobbling around. Then that's when he throws up in the club. Yeah. He throws inside the club. The bouncer came over. Hey, man, you guys got to go. So we got him out of there, got our taxi, got back to the hotel. He's still throwing up, and I'm just talking shit to him, you know.
The poor guy.
And everybody's like, hey, you going to help him? I said, you can't do nothing. He's already throwing up. He's already drunk. I ain't a doctor. I can't IV him or nothing like that right now. Went back to the room. He was throwing up.
He was dead.
Half dead. You know, woke up. I had to clean up chunks of shit off the room so it didn't look too bad, so it didn't get no extra charge.
This is the day in the life of going out with my guy after a fight, James. This is a normal routine. You don't go out. You never go out with my guy after a fight.
Okay.
And it's never me that's the one that's messed up. It's somebody else.
Yeah.
Like,
you're a veteran.
Fluffy in Kansas.
Mike's the instigator. He's the instigator.
Yeah, if you want to have fun, I'll get you going. I ain't gonna get like you, but I'll get you there. You know?
My thing with strip clubs is though, like I can't enjoy it because like I'm married, but even before that, it's like if you're paying for someone to like be interested in you, it just loses the whole appeal, I think.
Yeah,
like, and it gets annoying too because it's like they're hitting on you. Like I know how women feel when you're at a strip club, like women in general, because like when you have all these people hitting on you, it gets annoying, you know. So I don't know. It's a big ruse. But kind of on that note, I heard you've got some good dating advice. I'm curious. I mean, this is not typically a topic we tackle here on the show, but
you never go out with Mike and you don't get dating advice from Mike.
No,
those two things all bad.
Yeah, that's what they say. But my dating advice, like real dating advice, you know, it's if you're gonna be serious, then be serious. If you're gonna play, then play. You know, this. But what they're referring to is the stuff I be telling Shayla, because they always be acting like they're gonna get girls and they be stiff, you know, or whatever. I just tell them, you know, loosen up, talk.
It's reps. You got to put the reps in. That's what I say. It's experience. If you don't experience it, it's one thing to know it in your head.
Yeah.
If you know, and I feel bad for this generation because I think a lot of them are going to be in a lot of trouble when it comes to dating because first off, because it's a pandemic, so everyone's at home.
Everything's on their phone.
Yeah, no one's actually talking to anyone. It's text. It's not, you know, it's not the same. And two, like there's just a lot of like everything's about clout, you know, and it shouldn't be like that. You should be, you know, you got to be funny. You got to have a good personality. I have my own dating advice, but I'm curious yours as well. So
yeah, it's pretty much it. I just say
bullshitting. Might be bullshitting.
Just try to have fun, you know, and but when it's time to be serious, just be serious.
Yeah. I think the biggest mistake a lot of guys make is that, like, you know, at least for me anyways, when you're growing up, you're watching all these Hollywood movies, the guy's kissing the woman's ass the whole time. And then the woman doesn't become interested because there's no challenge. You don't have to treat a woman badly, but you got to be a bit of a challenge. That's the biggest lesson I learned is that, you know, you got to, you know, you got to make it so you have to build attraction with women as opposed to guys. You look at a woman, you're attracted to her. That's the difference. A lot of people don't know that.
I think you should probably be a little bit more, definitely not kissing no ass. You should. I think you know
what I mean. Like a typical Hollywood movie, the guy buys their flowers and all this stuff. He's like, oh my goodness, and then they fall in love. That doesn't happen in real life. That gets you arrested for stalking. That's what that is.
I think you shouldn't start buying flowers and doing all that until after you have her.
No, do you want to know the best first date for a woman? This is what I think. You do the coffee date, and the reason you do the coffee date is it's cheap. So you're not investing too much into this because, hey, if it doesn't go well, you don't want a 4-course dinner on your bill.
$5 on coffee. Yeah, you're good.
Two, everyone's already talking in a coffee shop. It's a relaxed environment. It's all good. And then 3 is like, you know, it's a neutral like place. There's a lot of people around. So if this person acts like a complete lunatic, there's people around. They're probably not going to act like that.
Yeah.
So that's what I think. That's the James Lynch.
You need a
good
few
advice.
more
It's good advice. That's sound.
You need more coffee dates to get it out of them, though, because of course everybody's going to put that their little what they call it, their representation person in
their
front.
best foot forward or whatever.
That's the other thing too. You go to the coffee shop, you find out what their order is. If they're asking for a, you know, double shot vanilla latte with a sprinkle of stevia with you know, just an ounce of milk or whatever, they're probably a pretty complicated person. You know, if you're like me and you go there, cold brew, no sugar. That's it.
Yeah,
that's as simple as it gets. Pretty yeah, basic. But but it's also not too complicated. You know, I'm not going to be a headache. I'm very easygoing. That's why I do that.
This is true.
So that's some of the things you have to look at as well. Well, that's interesting. By the way, I just looked up your age. You do not look 40 at all. What's your secret? I got to know.
Oh man, I don't know. I just
I have this theory that people, and we kind of talked about it a bit earlier. I have this theory that people who look younger for their age don't drink that much. I think drinking is one of the biggest reasons for people aging very rapidly.
Well, that's a fact.
Yeah.
But that's a fact.
No, that's not a fact because,
yes, it is a fact.
I would probably say within the last 5 years, you know, I did more drinking than people do in their whole entire life. But I think
you just started. If you consistently do it over time, it is bad. It's like smoking. It's known that
because like when I first started boxing, I didn't do anything. I don't smoke weed or any other kind of drug, but drinking is my choice. But maybe it's because I waited so long, and then even though now I can drink something every other night, and then also like Jim knows, like we go out like. If I drink a whole lot one night, the next day I'm the first person up running, first person training. I'm be up before everybody.
That's one thing that's very true. We could go like for
bottles. I'll drink bottles.
Right now it's different, James, because when we go to UFC, we're in quarantine, right? But in the past, like for Aspen's fights or whatever, when it's open, we have set training times, right? Like Mike is always there. He's always on time. You always know Mike will be there when it's time to train. You just never know where he's at outside of those training times. But he'll be showing up like he might have been drinking all night. But he'll show up right at that time when it's time to train. Like it's hilarious. We're like, "Where's Mike?" "Oh, don't worry about it. He'll be here. He knows it's at 2:00. He'll be coming in right. Just, oh, fuck, last night was a rough night, but I'm there.
and that's after my workout. I still get my workout in too.
Is that do you have like a go-to, like, when you get home after drinking, do you have like a set thing that you do to make sure you're not as hungover? Because I have my own sort of ideas.
I take a lot of somewhat kind of like age reversing. I take like the true Niagen, little things. I have I drink like this liver tea. That's actually really good, even if you don't drink. Mm-hmm. I drink the black charcoal. I have the black charcoal pills.
Yes, that was going to be one of my things I was going to tell you. A lot of people don't know about the charcoal pills because they use those in hospitals. You get it's the what's activated charcoal or whatever it's called. You get them in the grocery stores. That's really good. So I use that already. Yeah, he's got it right there.
I do one of these. I do these.
Liver, huh? Okay.
I do one of these, and I take this with the char. I drink one of these probably every other day. Mm-hmm. I just order them, every couple of weeks, order a case of them with the black charcoal. And then I just started doing I don't like the live sea moss, but I just started doing the sea moss pills because everybody's on that. And I think it kind of helps a little bit, like with natural energy and stuff.
No, I agree. That's mine is the charcoal, and I'll make sure I eat something before bed. Usually, I'll tell you what's good, and I know it's terrible for you, but it does a good job of absorbing the alcohol. Get like a Subway sub from earlier in the day, put it in the fridge, eat that when you get home after a night out. You're good to go. The charcoal, Gatorade, and that's my go-to if I ever am out drinking. But I don't drink that much, honestly. It's the hangovers are just, as I get older, they're like I'm on a commission for days. It's not good. So I can't.
But so when you do drink, like how much do you drink? Like if I drink a lot, I'm talking about like bottles, not just a couple,
Well, I mean, I had an incident
bottles of
months ago.
Fireball. Bottles of fire,
For me, no, it's like, yeah, hard liquor that like, if I mean, unless like it's a special occasion, but I like if I'm out, I'll have, the only time I usually drink now is if I'm out for dinner, I'll have like maybe 1 or 2 drinks or something. But if I'm out with my friends or something, if it's like a party night or something, I'll have, whatever I do, whiskey, tequila is my go-to. I love tequila. It goes down really well with me. Like those are the type of things I have, but there's a certain point that I know that I have to just, get to and then stop, because if I don't, it's going to ruin the next week for me with everything. And I'm like you, I'll get up and work out and do all my stuff, but I'm miserable. Absolutely miserable. Like there's no, like the payoff for what I'm trying to do the night before is not worth the the anguish over the next couple of days after that, right? So that's what I think about drinking these days. We should get some fight talk here. We've got about 15 minutes left.
Any questions in there?
Oh yeah, well, I'm just trying to see if there's any other topics we were gonna go over. We sort of talked about them there a little bit. I got a question for you guys. This is kind of related to some of the stuff we've been talking about here. So Kevin Holland, I don't know if you guys saw, is going to be fighting this Saturday against Marvin Vettori. Holland, of course, coming off that loss to Derek Brunson in his last fight. I'm assuming you guys watched that fight. But one of the topics in that matchup was that Brunson was beating him decisively, and Holland's still talking trash, and even to the point where he's in his corner, instead of listening to corner advice, he's talking to Habib, who's there as a guest and stuff. What do you guys make of that, and how frustrating is that as a coach to see a fighter when they're losing not make the adjustments and just sort of keep playing around? What are your I'll start with you, Mike. What do you think of that?
Oh, first of all, I think it's very disrespectful, and then I don't think they're taking their careers serious. You should be trying to make the adjustments you need every round to obviously win the fight, and then when you're not listening to your coaches, that's you pretty much saying, I don't believe in my outside eyes. Like you have to listen. They see things that you don't see, from a different perspective. And if you're conversating with people outside, the cage, and you're looking at them, and then your head is definitely not in the game. I tell people, even like when I fight, people are like, man, did you see that ring card girl? And I'm like, damn, like I didn't see her. Like I still haven't seen a ring card girl. Like there's one time I said, I'm gonna look. And then that time I still didn't get a chance to see her, and you want that kind of focus to where like you can't hear anybody else's voice but your coaches. You don't see people on the outside. You don't see, oh, there's my friend over there. You responding to random people saying this, like, so that's if you're doing that, then it's going to make it very hard for you to win a fight, and you shouldn't be surprised when you lose.
What are your thoughts on that, Jim? I know that's something you probably wouldn't tolerate, but to me, it's frustrating. Like, it's one thing to talk trash if you're winning, but if you're losing, it's like,
hold on. One thing.
Yeah.
So we've had a situation, Jim and I, where a fighter wasn't listening, and we literally just turned our seats around in the corner, and we watched the audience. The fighter wasn't listening, and it was nothing we can do. We just turned around,
No, we literally just stopped watching the fight, turned around, looked in the crowd, talked to the crowd.
There's nothing for us to do. You don't listen to us. Do your own thing. Yep.
Yeah. No, it's crazy.
Yeah, no, I just think in long story short, I mean, it's disrespectful to his coaches that he's been with for quite some time, Travis Luter and the rest of them. Talking and being, theatrical, whatever, like Kevin Holland does, that's one thing, right? But like during the fight, like you can still talk during the fight, like if you want to talk to your opponent, but you know what I mean? At the same time, it's like, man, you're talking to Khabib outside the cage, you're not paying attention to your coaches. Like, I don't know. It went overboard. Like, dude, you were kind of funny, and now at one point, and then that just kind of was like, that turned me off. You're like, dude, that's just stupid now. But I don't know. Maybe he'll have a different. I mean, he's still obviously very talented, and I think he's going to give Marvin Vettori a very difficult time.
You think so? What? Because I'm interested with this fight, because I'll tell you one thing about the optics of this fight that's interesting. Holland's already said he's going to 170, right? Like that's inevitable. He says he can make the weight. He used to fight at 170. That's something he stated before this situation came up. Yeah. So he's not a contender right now, right? Because he had that opportunity to fight Brunson. Had he won, he would have been a contender. He lost. So he's kind of in this spot now where he's just taking this fight and he really has nothing to lose here. If he loses, he can go to 170. It doesn't matter. That was the idea anyways. If he wins, then that gets him as a contender. But Vettori, he needs to win this fight. He's talked all this stuff about Adesanya. You know, they had that split decision when they fought the first time. He just beat Jack Hermanson. That's a dangerous combination. And the fact that Holland, like he does with most of his opponents, doesn't have a height and reach advantage in the fight. So I think, you know, if you're looking at the odds right now, Vettori's like, I think a 3-1 favorite. Holland could surprise people here. That's one thing I do think that people aren't looking at is that Holland has nothing to lose here.
No, and you know, people forget quickly. Kevin Holland is very good. He knows how to use his range. He's very shifty on his feet. Marvin Vettori is a very linear fighter. He's straightforward, you know, which isn't a problem. But against Kevin Holland, that could prove very, very bad for Marvin. So, you know, we'll see. And we'll see what kind of Kevin Holland comes out. You know, if he's just a little bit more focused, presents a big problem for Marvin. Marvin's tough and all that, but you get touched by Kevin Holland at range, it's not looking good for you. We'll see.
I also wonder too, you know, Vettori, we've seen him, you know, he's Italian. He's a passionate guy. We've seen him get, you know, we saw that whole thing with Carl Roberson. You remember at the hotel where he got mad at him, was getting in his face and stuff. I wonder too, if Holland's trash talk might impact Vettori, because I don't recall Vettori having an opponent, at least recently, that's talked a bunch of trash where, you know, maybe Marvin can't handle it. I'm curious to see if that plays a role in this fight as well too. But we'll see.
We'll see.
Could throw him off his game as well. We do have a couple questions. We can get to those as well. Dean D, I've been seeing you in the chat. We got Dino in the chat as well. If anyone wants to submit any questions for Mike or for us in general, this is a great question from Dean, and Dean's a follower on my show as well, so appreciate Dean tuning in here. He says, how do they gauge when to do hard sparring or just light targeted sparring? Max Holloway said he backed off sparring in his latest fights, and it seemed to work with him. We'll start first with Coach Mike. What do you think?
The gauge when hard sparring. Well, it's hold on one second. I'm burning some water.
Like blowing up his house.
So like me, I don't know. I think hard sparring is smart hard sparring though. It depends on your opponent. You know, I mean on your sparring partners. If you're gonna do hard sparring, the hard sparring partner has to be very educated. It can't be just a tough person that just want to spar hard, because that's when somebody's going to get hurt. But I do believe as you get closer to the fight, like for me, I like if my fight's on Saturday, I want my last day of sparring to be like that Monday, just to kind of keep that tune in. And anything after that should be more just like very light technical sparring. But I think, you know, weeks before the, you know, or maybe a month out from a fight, if you get that, I'm a firm believer in hard sparring, you know, because you want to make sure everything works. And that's for like, except for, you know, obviously some of the kicks and things like that. If somebody's doing MMA sparring, you know, you want to watch out for the limbs, but you want to make sure what you're learning works at full speed. If you just half-ass it, then you don't know if it really works, you know, when it's live.
Jim, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's I think it's two kind of school of thought, right? Like Mike comes from that boxing genre, right? Where boxers are sparring all the time, right? Like that's probably one of the biggest things that they do is spar. I think part of on the flip side of that in MMA, you know, the last thing you want to do is you're not getting paid, right? You're not getting paid in practice. You're not getting paid to get concussions in practice. And if you don't make it to the fight, you ain't making no money. So one thing that, you know, with us, we only spar 1 day a week at MMA Gold. So just 1 day a week. It's Thursday nights. Everyone knows it, and that's it. So, you know, we stop any kind of hard kind of sparring anyway about 2 weeks out from a fight. But, you know, a month out, things start to tone down. And I think the one thing where I wholeheartedly agree with Mike is in the beginning of people's career, when they're first learning, right, they need to spar a little bit more because they have to get used to what that is like. But once you've been doing it for so long, you know, you're not learning to fight anymore when you've been doing it for so long. Like you're just not. You know what it's like to be hit, you know that type of thing. So it's more, you know, becoming a better athlete, making sure your timing's good, your conditioning's good, you know, those types of things. So you know, some of these places that, you know, I've seen some of the, you know, some of these other teams, you see that they're sparring every single day. How do you ever fix anything if all you're doing is sparring every single day, right? And you're doing the same dumb shit over and over again, and it just doesn't make any sense to me. So I think there's, there's validity depending on who you are and when you're starting your career and things like that. But as you start to get, more seasoned, I mean, you're not really learning to fight anymore. You got to be sharp. You got to be conditioned well, healthy, those types of things. So we do spar, but it's 1 day a week.
That makes sense. We'll get the last question here from Dean D, and then we'll wrap things up here. He says, when Coach Jim and Mike get a grappler in the gym, what do they work on first with them to develop their striking? Go with you first, Jim.
Wait, when Coach Jim and get a grappler in the gym, what do they do first to develop their striking? Well, I can kind of defer to Mike a little bit more, and then Jake, our Muay Thai coach. But it's basics, right? Footwork. Mm-hmm. So like one thing that's different in our gym is like whether Mike is a boxing coach or not, or I'm the grappling coach or Jake's Muay Thai coach. One thing that's very different is I always know what Mike is doing. I know what Jake is doing. Jake knows what I'm doing when it comes to grappling. Mike knows what I'm doing in grappling. So we all are kind of in unison. I'm always watching Mike, and vice versa. We're always watching each other. So we kind of know what each other's doing. So, and it's funny because fighters will always be like, hey, wait a minute. Mike was doing the same thing. We got no shit because we didn't wake up yesterday. We're kind of aware of what each other's going to do. So it's a lot of the basics. Like Mike's always working footwork, simple combinations, getting to understand their body position, their movement, how to move, those types of things. Too many guys, they go to the gym. Like I said, you get these coaches that are, feeding all these crazy mitt work, but they're not even throwing the punch correctly. Or, 6 months in, they're already learning how to switch stances. I'm like, bitch, you don't even know how to throw the correct punch orthodox, let alone fucking switching stances, right? So I think it's that stuff. It's the basics and taking them from the ground up and doing those things first and not getting them ahead of themselves.
Good stuff. Mike, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, when we get like a grappler or something in the gym, I just tell them, I show them how to make the punches make sense. Like what your feet are doing, your hands should be doing. I should be able to look. I should take a camera and cut it in half. I should be able to look at you from the waist down and tell that the punches you're throwing up top without even seeing up top. And I just, show them, step in here, turn in here, and I slow it way down so they can fathom what I'm saying. Like, why would you throw this if this is like this, and then I make sure I can speak whatever language that they speak, their fight talk, so they can understand, oh, okay, so, and sometimes I'll, use some kind of grappling metaphor. You got to do this before you do this, right? You have to get your position before your submission, and I tell them, you got to get this angle before you take that shot. You have to move here for that shot to be available. But like Jim said, just the basics first. And I hate the coaches that want to have them memorize a bunch of shit. And I don't teach people how to memorize a bunch of punches so they can put a good video up. I think you should. I show them what type of punches to throw for their style, height, build, strength, and all that stuff. And then I show them how to get, the angles and where you should be when you apply those punches. And then whatever I teach, a fighter, I'm also teach them how to defend those shots. And if you start doing this, say for instance, the other person has a smart coach. If you were doing this, they're going to start telling their fighter to do this. So I'll go a couple things down the line. I show you this. If they got a smart coach, they're going to tell them to do this to you. And then you have to start doing this. And then a couple more adjustments down the line, depending on the education of the fighter. And that's kind of like what we do it. That's what we do at Aspen, a lot. We do this right here, show her this. They're going to try to do this. And even like just yesterday when Jim was grappling with her, if you do this, they're going to do this. So then you got to take this route. If they start to do this, you take that route. Same thing like we're doing with, Anthony right now. I'm actually learning his style, his opponent's style. I'm not even southpaw. So I'm wearing out my right side. I'm sore every day now, trying to fight, like his person, so he can get technical southpaw sparring. So me taking all my knowledge from orthodox and using it in my southpaw, look for him right now.
Awesome. All right. Well, good time to wrap up the show. We got about 30 seconds left here on the program. Mike, thanks so much for doing this. We really appreciate it. Anything you want to plug, any social media, your merch, anything like that? The floor is yours, sir.
Yeah, just look out for the Instagram. It's Menace2543 is my personal one. Then everything else, that's Mike Guy Boxing. And if you really want to learn boxing, I ain't gonna bullshit you. It's gonna be 100%. Just hit me up.
Jim, what do you got coming up this week?
Nothing this week. Next week, we have Greg Milliard, our fighter from Aruba. He's making his Bellator debut. 205, cool. April 16th at the Mohegan Sun. Yeah, and then we're kind of chilling for April, and then May and June, July, and shit really starts heating up again. So
shit's gonna hit the fan. Yeah, we might have some fight announcements too. I know there's some stuff happening behind the scenes. Make sure you guys, if you're watching this video, or girls, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. We do the show every Tuesday morning, 7 a.m. Pacific time, 10 a.m. Eastern time. Variety of guests. By the way, shout out to our producer Amanda. We got Misha Tate on last week, and we actually got her before ESPN did. So great work by Amanda on that. Lots of good feedback on last week's episode. If you guys like this show, like I said, leave a comment. Let us know if there's any guests you want on the show. Let us know as well. You can follow me on Twitter and on Instagram at Lynch on Sports. I hope you guys have a great rest of your week. We will be back here next Tuesday. Thanks so much for watching. And thanks again to Mike for joining us here, telling us all types of great stuff here on the Victory Loves Company podcast.
Thank you.